So it might come to no surprise that I actually kind of like some shoes, and I saw a video on YouTube talking about Nike struggling recently, and thought, is Nike really struggling like that? I haven't paid attention to like the company itself, and it just seemed today was a weird day to see that because Nike is down bad today, one of its worst performances in multi decades. And if we even look at the stock itself, this is what we're looking at. Nike down 20.4% today. You see the drop off here is where it started, 94 down to 75. I mean, Nike, it's not looking good for Nike. Even, I mean, the past 5 years it's even down. I guess peaked up here at like 177, down 57% to today. So that is insane that Nike is down like that. But I guess we can see and find out what's going on with Nike. Why are they struggling so bad?
Nike. We all know it dominates the shoe market. The company owns 38% of the total market share, and it's outpaced competitors for years.
Pushing 50%.
But with sales falling in Q1 this year, Nike is facing its worst performance since the late 1990s. And this past February, Nike announced that it will lay off 2% of its workforce as part of its plan to cut $2 billion in costs.
So many challenges that Nike has to face right now. Today, there, in my opinion, has never been a better time to be a small brand.
So small brand, probably right. I feel like Nike's still the number one brand. That's still what people are looking at, right? If you talk about shoes, most people are gonna have Nikes, wear Nikes. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Other brands definitely on the up and up. Adidas just had a new collab with Nate Shot. They've got like these influencer stuff. Maybe they're becoming a bigger brand. But I still think Nike's number one, even though I guess they're struggling. But I want to see this. So this is Nike stuff. They're a $113 billion company, so they're a big boy. I want to see how much money they make, though. So here we go. We got revenue $12 billion, barely up. So let's call it. So this should be quarterly. Yeah, so annually, $51 billion in 2023. So I guess that's revenue. What are we looking for? Income $5 billion, net profit 990. So I mean they make money, right? $5 billion net income. I'm assuming 9 billion is their profit, or is it 9.9% is their profit margin? Either way, 2 billion actually would be a big increase, right? If they save that money, that would actually be a big increase for them. So I guess finding ways to cut money, Nike's got to do it.
Newer brands have been gaining ground, and longtime rivals have seen their sales soar.
Nike's shoes are continuing to stack up on clearance racks. The pressure's on, and Nike is trying to recover from the crucial missteps it took in recent years
and pick back up in the areas it used to own in. Now that the company is shifting priorities, Nike might be getting the boost it needs. Let's first take a step back and identify one of the biggest factors that led to Nike's current state. During a management shakeup in early 2020, Nike bid adieu to veteran CEO Mark Parker, who started at Nike as a footwear designer in 1979. Under his 16-year leadership, Parker led the company through some of its biggest wins. But when Nike announced John Donahoe would replace him as the company's fourth ever CEO, the company entered a new era. Donahoe's background was quite different from Parker's. A lot of his experience came from leading tech companies.
See, this I think is a problem. I think somebody said it. I don't remember who, but with like CEOs nowadays, you don't have people leading companies that know how to do the work of the company they're leading. Like now you have financial guys like coming up to companies and just running numbers and figuring things out instead of knowing how a company works, right? Instead of being CEOs and like these big tech companies and having his background in tech and software engineer and stuff like that. Now you come to a shoe manufacturer, their biggest thing is shoes, but like a manufacturing company, like why those don't mix, right? You don't have the expertise you should have, but this is where we go. Everyone is if you know finance, you can be a CEO.
He and other new management members played a big part in advancing Nike's consumer direct acceleration strategy in 2017. This prompted Nike to drastically shift focus in its business model, including a big emphasis on direct-to-consumer channels. You see, back in 2019, Nike saw a lot of growth in e-commerce.
That's actually a good thing.
By the end of that fiscal year, its sneakers app doubled its number of monthly active users, and sales on the app accounted for roughly 20% of Nike's digital business, which put Nike in a good strategic position when the pandemic hit, and e-commerce became key for many companies' survival. At this point, Donahoe doubled down on the company's ongoing initiatives, and in one earnings call, Donahoe said,
"The consumer today is digitally grounded and simply will not revert back."
So maybe that's actually the right thing. I guess I'm seeing more and more with the CEOs and stuff coming out and being finance tech oriented, more finance oriented, and like numbers and stuff, and just going down that road. But I guess maybe this guy was the right road for that. So he came from an e-commerce world, eBay and stuff. So maybe he had the expertise to actually go down the right direction. We'll see more in his story, but I still like the other guy. I don't know if he retired or something, got kicked out, but if you have experience directly with what the company does, I feel like that makes you a better candidate. You can actually understand how the company works instead of just looking at numbers.
Nike invested heavily in developing its digital presence, including global store concepts and 4 mobile apps, all in hopes for customers to move to Nike's DTC channels.
The shoes are much more margin rich at selling via DTC.
This shift away from retail was an aggressive move. For context, wholesale brought in revenue of $25 billion for Nike in 2019. So this was a huge decision. But ultimately, Nike severed a third of its relationships with sales partners and cut back on the amount of merchandise it sold to remaining clients. At least at the start, things were looking good. Membership to Nike's digital platforms grew to 160 million users. And
so let's see this again. I think 2020 not ruined, but like gave a bunch of these companies kind of false premise of what was going on, because everyone was forced online. Everyone had to go here. So Nike, like they said, cut $25 billion their wholesale. When they sell to these retailers, they made the money up front, I guess, and the retailers had to hold on to the inventory. It's probably the deals they had. And now they see 160 million people online, this and that, and people are doing great. But in reality, it might be just that people are online because they had to be, and everything else was closed and locked down. And now we come out of this era into a more, we're going back to in-person. Stuff is still done online, but all of these like online peaks, streaming numbers, these tech platforms, all of these peaks happened during that time, and it's been kind of downhill since then.
And by May 2020, digital channels accounted for 30% of Nike's sales, which was about 3 years ahead of schedule. But that's as far as it got. Nike never reached that 50% goal that Donahoe initially anticipated. Once lockdowns lifted, consumers started to go back to brick-and-mortar stores. And that's when Nike's direct sales started to...
This is what I'm saying. It peaked. This is the peak numbers. And they just go down from there. You see, they just going down, down, down. Companies, they thought they had everything figured out, thought it was going good. They should have known. They should have been smart enough to know that, people have to go online. These aren't going to be forever numbers.
See a change in course. To add to the matter, Nike was one of the many companies that faced significant supply chain headwinds during the pandemic. Come the latter half of 2022, several seasons worth of products finally arrived at Nike's warehouses, and the company was suddenly hit by an inventory tsunami, amounting to nearly $9.7 billion.
Okay, so look at this a little bit. Almost $10 billion in inventory. That's the one thing you don't want, is holding a bunch of inventory, because it takes up space, costs money to manage all that stuff. So, yeah, you know what? They might have jumped the gun. They might have thought they had these numbers going up forever, and they just weren't going up forever. So.
This marked the company's highest inventory level in history and resulted in a 14% drop in share price. It became more and more evident that Nike overshot its DTC potential and needed to re-strategize. Brands can extend the time span of a product line through scarcity, the lore of a product, if you will. The Jordan line, for instance, is a multi-billion-dollar brand that was built on this model. Nike releases often sold out within seconds. For example, in
That's how they get you. That's the problem with everyone now. Everything's limited. If you want something, you got to get it on the drop, or you got to beat the bots to it, and then everyone's just reselling it. You know what? We need a new company come up and just sell you for everything you want, for what you want, let you buy it from them. Because the resellers have got insane. People buy stuff, people get bots, buy these things, and then just charge 2-3 times the price on these other apps to sell them. someone comes up with a solution to that, maybe they can take over Nike and flip them.
2021, demand on the sneakers app grew by 70% compared to the year before. Nike only met 7% of that demand, meaning it was leaving profit on the table. So the company tried to meet more of the demand, but this turned out to be a double-edged sword. In making the product more widely available, the hype behind its product simmered. And now Nike announced that it too will go back to its OG approach and pull back on some of its big franchises.
All right, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I feel like that'd be a normal thing it'd be good for consumers, but I guess Nike tried this. They tried saying, you know what, that people are buying this, but they want more of it and can't get it, and they upped the production. Did they up it too much and there was more supply than demand? Because if they did that, then you're losing, right? You got to find the equilibrium. Maybe Nike did it wrong. We just, and they just don't know what they're doing. That could be the case too. So I don't know, but we're not giving up on that idea.
Remember, this is the company that has created some of the most cutting-edge pieces of shoe technology. The Air Max Bubble, Nike Flyknit, and even those shoes that could tie themselves.
The big issue, though, is that this product takes months and months and months to bring to market. So while it's absolutely the right thing to do, it's not a quick fix.
In a recent statement, Nike announced
That's kind of crazy, though, actually. Can you actually get innovation in shoes? I guess I never even thought about that, but I guess Nike innovates in shoes, but it takes them too long. The other brands, maybe Adidas is coming. I think the only other brand I would think of that is like coming up on Nike is Adidas. I think New Balance, maybe they've had some sort of change and like people kind of wearing them more, but I feel like people think that is like a really old brand or like a cheap brand. But the New Balance maybe a little bit, but Adidas like the number one challenger, I think.
Nike is so big today, they can do whatever they want.
Just take a look at how it's recently handled.
That's a dangerous mindset. That is dangerous for like what he says. Nike is so big they can do what they want. That's true until it's not. So if you're a big company, obviously as incumbents, but if you're not ready to change and innovate, or you think you can do whatever you want, that's what Blockbuster thought when Netflix was coming around. And they lost. There's a lot of examples of companies that were the big incumbents that collapsed because they thought they could do what they want, but at the end of the day, you can't. The market's the market, and if you don't adjust to the market, then you're going to lose. So I guess Nike, obviously, they're not going to go bankrupt anytime soon or disappear, but the struggles are there. The stock price, I mean, those struggles are insane. I didn't even know it was like that. Even for 5 years, they're down. So they got to figure out how to bring this thing around, maybe do a little bit more innovating in shoes. I don't know what you could really do with that, but they do have people coming up. Adidas, the biggest challenger, but like I said, I mean, they're still microscopic compared to Nike. But if they continue making the wrong moves, then they could easily see themselves shift out of the number one spot, just like many incumbents and number one companies have done before. That's going to do it for this video. As always, don't forget to smash the button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next